All right, welcome back, everyone. So it's Explainer of Mysteries here, and today I decided that we're going to talk about the usage of UPG or unverified personal gnosis in practice versus pre-existing gnosis. So an example of using UPG would be, and I found this from another channel. In fact, I'm going to link her channel name, and hopefully when I can find the video again, I will link the video name in the description below. I will talk about UPG, the usage of UPG versus pre-existing gnosis or prior gnosis that you got from another source. So an example would be coming up with correspondences. You may have to use whether correspondences that simply just work well. An example I can give would be if you decided to use myrrh for a love spell. You just kind of had a hunch and you decided to go with it, or you like the smell of myrrh. And so you decide to use it for a love spell and it worked. And so you decide to use it again and again and again. And it keeps working. But when you read certain books, you will realize that myrrh corresponds with Mars and the sun more so than, say, Jupiter or Venus or the moon. Although myrrh can have lunar correspondences by default. Any kind of incense, any kind of suffumigation done in any kind of rituals are by default going to have some kind of lunar incense. Of course, anything in the physical world is going to have some kind of Saturn incense. And the fire itself, the burning, is obviously a martial correspondence. And the sweet scent, or anything perceived to be sweet, to be luxurious, artistic, appealing to the senses, that is going to correspond with Venus. So, yes, using myrrh for a love spell did actually work. I mean, obviously, it worked because the practitioner used myrrh for a love spell and it did work. And so they keep using it for love spells, which I'm not sure why they would do multiple love spells, like doing love spells all the time, but you could do love spells all the time, maybe for self-love or to gain the love of others or to be a more lovable person. I'll put it that way. Myrrh works. But an example I can give while building on this is if they decide to get, say, for instance, a book, and the book says, well, myrrh corresponds with Mars, and you actually would use, say, camphor or rose water, or, say, for instance, you could say frankincense. I don't know. I'm just copal, why not? Throwing about incense names that something else for a love spell. So you decide to use something else for a love spell, and it backfires horribly to where the book said, well, you should use this incense, and you use this incense, and it backfired horribly. So typically, my go-to rule in regards to using UPG, unverified personal gnosis, from, say, personal divination or personal practice, is versus using something from a pre-written source or a pre-recorded source, is usually whatever comes first. Whatever works first and sticks with the subconscious is what you're just going to keep. and it's what's going to work for the rest of your life. I wouldn't necessarily say the rest of your life, but that's ultimately going to be what's going to work best. Now, an example that I will give myself, and I will keep this very vague because I am talking about practices that I do quite often, is using some kind of equipment for a banishing ritual. No, it is not the LBRP. It is not any of the banishing rituals as prescribed in the Golden Dawn. They are, and no, it is not the Star Ruby. It's not any of these. It's more of just getting rid of bad energy or things that I don't want. Now, for me, I found that using some kind of equipment that I would hold in my hand just didn't work. And the reason being is because when I first started doing this, I didn't hold equipment in my hand. There were times where I did use magic or I would do rituals whilst holding something in my hand, and that something was usually just a stick of incense, something as simple as that. And it worked, so that's kind of what stuck. Typically, that's how it's going to be. Whatever works for you and whatever has stuck to your subconscious early on is typically what's going to work the best. Now, if you decide that you want to get into an initiation and you decide that you actually want to, completely change the correspondences so that it fits with whatever specific paradigm you're working with, I would say it's going to take a little bit of work beforehand, and it's going to take a little bit of extra work while doing it in order to break the correspondences and to make these new correspondences vibe well with your mental state, with your spiritual self. In other words, you would need to find one that fits well with your ruach. If, say we're talking about the Kabbalah, which is something that I practice. However, that'll be it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. We'll do a quick little summary here. So, UPG versus whatever is listed in a book or recording or orated. Typically, it's going to be whatever experience worked first and whatever had the impression on the subconscious mind. Now, I do want to add a more tidbit to that, in that typically whatever is orated or read or simply whatever sticks to the mind the most is gonna be what, sticks the best. Okay, so I'll give an example here. If you hear something from some, let's just say, less than reputable source, it's just the source of the information just isn't that well presented to you, versus another source of information is well presented, well put together, and has maybe a really good book. Like, the book is well illustrated, it's, you know, pretty fancy, it's well-known system. That might stick with you better simply because it has a bigger impression. However, that'll be it for this one. I'm reaching about 10 minutes now. I hope you all enjoyed, and that's that. We'll see each other next time.